This ain't no goddamn way to start a partnership. Now get this, we ain't partners, we ain't brothers, and we ain't friends. I'm putting you down and keeping you down until Gans is locked up or dead. And if Gans gets away, you're going to be sorry you ever met me. I'm already sorry. Welcome to the Hey You Guys podcast. We're your hosts, Liam and Rob. And this week we covered 48 Hours.
Ah, what a film. What a film. I'd never seen it before. I thought I was bullshitting last week. I thought I had seen this when I was younger. I had clearly never seen this film. I kind of assumed I'd seen it. But I was watching it. I was like, nope, no recollection of a single scene from this film.
I've seen this film twice before. And for a film, for a podcast where we go back and discuss the films that we loved growing up, this is quite refreshing to see one from the 80s that you haven't seen before, and I've only seen twice.
Oh, yeah, it's awesome. Oh, no, that's what I mean. It was like I was really looking forward to it when I thought I'd seen it. But when I realized I hadn't seen it, I was like, oh, man, maybe, like, I was almost like apprehensive. I was like, oh, is this going to be too old? Like, without the nostalgia link to it, which is obviously part of the point of the show. It's like, do these films hold up? And watching it for the first time now, I was like, why didn't I watch this before? Because this movie is fantastic. It is so much better than I thought it was going to be.
Although, can we say it straight away? Sorry to interrupt.
No, go for it.
Can we say straight away that this film will never get made today?
Oh, no. I mean, it's a movie of its time. The obvious. There are loads of things in this film, like the treatment of women, pretty questionable. Yeah. And as you get in a lot of late 80s films, there's a lot of pointless nudity just, scattered throughout the film. Yeah. But it's definitely the racism, man. It is on the nose.
It is out in front. And it's and even the police chief is being racist.
Yeah, the black police chief drops an N-bomb on Reggie. It's like, whoa. And I love the fact that he's even shocked by it. He's like, yeah, I called him an N-bomb. And it's like, you all look at him like, wow, dude. Like, I know, like, the police chief was famous for his tirades, but I didn't know he was dropping N-bombs. Yeah. I was like, God damn, man. Every cop is racist, regardless of the color of their skin.
It's quite, but speaking of the police chief, it's because he's only ever been shouty police chief 4 times. Obviously,
Frank McRae, yeah?
Frank McRae, yeah.
Yeah.
It was this film he started. Then
I love how you say only 4 times.
I'm losing you a second.
Are we okay? Oh, no, sorry.
No, I think we're okay.
Back now.
I think we're okay.
Are we okay?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. So are we just going to carry on?
Yeah, we'll carry on. There was a bit of technical difficulty there.
We'll carry on.
He's only been shouty police chief 4 times, but it's a piss take of this, mind. That's what I mean. So
yeah.
Because it was this.
It's still a lot,
obviously,
though.
It was the sequel, Another 48 Hours. Then it was Last
Action Hero
and Loaded Weapon 1.
Oh, yeah, with Samuel L. Jackson and
Emilio Estevez.
Is it Emilio Estevez?
Emilio Estevez.
Yeah. The only cop that comes close to matching Frank McRae in terms of grumpy cop is, funny enough, another Eddie Murphy movie, and it's Inspector Todd from Beverly Hills Cop.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as he comes, is that fucking Foley in here? Like, he's fantastic. Like, he is angry as shit. He's not quite as comedic as Frank McRae, but he is kind of on that level of, like, classic cliched angry black, police commissioner or whatever his position is. Although the guy who played Inspector Todd actually was a cop for the Detroit Police Department at the time. And it's weird because it feels like almost that character is being moved directly from 48 Hours to Beverly Hills Cop, much in the same way that, let's be clear, Reggie, Eddie Murphy's character, is almost exactly the same as Axel Foley. It's unbelievable. Yeah. Like, even Walter Hill, the director of this film, he said it's like they took Reggie and all they did was give him a badge and said, because let's be clear, by the end of 48 Hours, Reggie is basically a cop. He's basically playing a cop, And it's almost as if you could almost believe that it's the same character. It's like, after this, he somehow got a job with the police, moved to Detroit, all that shit. It's so similar. It's unbelievable.
We should really give a shout out to Frank McRae, who passed away on the 29th of April this year.
Was it? Did he really?
Yeah, he passed away. He passed away about just over a month ago now.
He's one of those people, like, I'm sure he had a much longer list of IMDb's and stuff like that, but it's like, it doesn't matter. Like, he will always and forever be the quintessential angry black police officer. Police chief, sorry. He's so good at it.
For me, he was always the lovable, quiet guy in Batteries Not Included.
Oh, yeah, Jesus. I vaguely remember that, but I have seen it, but not for the longest time.
Yeah. Sorry, anyway, I wanted to give a shout out to Frank McRae, but let's go back to Eddie Murphy, obviously, as you said. And yeah, he could have been, for Beverly Hills Cop or this, it's basically the same character, just a little bit aged.
And well, that's the thing. I think when most people think of the start of Eddie Murphy's career, and it's certainly the case for me, you do think of Beverly Hills Cop. But obviously, this was his big screen debut.
Yeah.
And I was watching this. I'm like, I can't believe this is his debut. I know, like, he'd been on TV. Obviously, he came directly from Saturday Night Live. Like a lot of these guys coming from the 80s, like last week with Ghostbusters and Bill Murray and stuff. But I was like, this guy, you get the introduction with him. It's almost quite comedic introduction. Like in the cell, he's Roxanne doing the singing and stuff like that. But after that, he's funny, sure, but it's not a kind of comic verse performance. Like he's a tough guy in this. He's just quick. He's just, quick-witted. He's smart. He's intelligent. I totally buy him as a tough guy. And I was watching this. I was like, this has got to be one of the best debut performances of all time. I was like almost in awe. I was like, I can't believe this is his first movie.
21 as well.
21.
Yeah.
And this guy was a ready-made movie star. Straight out the box, straight out of the lot, movie star. Don't pass go, don't collect £200, go straight to movie star. And I was like, am I getting carried away? And I had to check some lists. I was like, has anyone else seen this? And he was on a list of like best movie debuts of all time, and Eddie Murphy was on there. And in terms of like, the big names, like the only people like who I could find who kind of compared was like Cameron Diaz in The Mask. She had that kind of same vibe where as soon as she showed up, you're like, it feels like she's been a movie star for years. And someone said Paul Hogan in Mick Dundee. And I would agree that he was fantastic in that, but he never really became a movie star, did he? He felt like a movie star in Crocodile Dundee, but it never really went on. So I'm not sure if he counts. Frances McDormand in Blood Simple, she was fantastic.
Yeah.
Alan Rickman, obviously, Hans Gruber. Although, again, you could make the argument that he never really became a superstar in the same... Well, he was never on the same level as Eddie Murphy, obviously. And who else there? Barbara Streisand in Funny Girl. I'm not sure if you've seen that, but it's almost like a similar... Not a similar trajectory, but she's coming from a different field. Like, obviously, Eddie Murphy's coming from comedy. Barbara Streisand's primarily coming from music. And she was a ready-made movie star as soon as she hit the screen. And again, a similar story in terms of just, you're not expecting it was, and for me personally, the other one that really caught my attention at the time was The Rock in Welcome to the Jungle. I remember watching Welcome to the Jungle, which is a so-so action comedy, but I was like, dude, man, this is the rest of The Rock. This guy's like a movie star. You just see it, like you just had that something straight away. But I would say all of those are eclipsed by Eddie Murphy in this movie. Like from minute one, I'm like, man, this guy just absolutely owns. But I think the moment you really think, like when you're watching the film and go, this guy isn't just a movie star, he's a megastar, is the scene in the Hillbilly Club. With that, you think of all the racism which we've kind of tiptoed around in this film, and like how cathartic it must have been for African Americans to see Eddie Murphy on screen, and for his character himself to see, oh, I'm your worst fucking nightmare, I'm an N-bomb with a gun, oh, an N-bomb with a badge kind of thing. The way he both figuratively and literally owns the room in that scene. And I remember like, he'd been fantastic from the word go, but that scene in particular, I was like, there couldn't have been a person in the world who wasn't watching that and going, this guy's going to be fucking huge. And he was for the next, I know he's still huge now, but really it was the 80s when he absolutely dominated, wasn't it?
You went off then. I had no way to actually interject. And
I'm so sorry.
Anything, man.
And the problem is, I'm going to rattle on a little bit more now. So I wanted to give you a chance to button, but while I'm on the subject, and I do apologize, I'm getting carried away. But this is his run from 82. So 82 was obviously 48 Hours.
Yeah.
83, Trading Places. 84, Beverly Hills Cop. 85, where it wasn't like a major motion picture. 86, Golden Child, which is so-so, but I really enjoyed it. 87, Beverly Hills Cop 2, which is also fantastic. 88, Coming to America. 89, Harlem's Nights, which, again, depending on taste. And then the run kind of ends then, funnily enough, with the sequel in 1990.
1990, yeah.
Yeah, in another 48 hours. But in terms of, like, runs at the cinema, especially one in terms of, like, starting, like, it wasn't like, he was in a few okay films and then he had this great run. It's like his run started immediately and he pretty much owned the 80s. Unreal.
If you think about it, we've already said he was 21 when he did this. Well, probably 20 when he was filming it. He was 21 when it was released. So he did all of those films before he turned 30.
Yeah, which is insane.
Yeah.
Although it's amazing how, like, when you can't, it's almost hard to explain why someone looks so different. Like I was looking at the posters from 48 Hours and another 48 Hours, and they almost look identical, but there's something about just his face where his face looks 80s in one and looks 90s in the other. I'm not sure if it's just a slight change to the mustache, slightest change to his hair. There's something, Nick Nolte obviously because he's very much 70s cop, despite this being an 80s film.
Yeah.
But then he obviously changed his vibe. But he's another one. He's an interesting character because obviously going into this film, he was top billing. It's not Eddie Murphy, obviously. It's Nick Nolte. He was the movie star. But man, like, and there's elements of this film where, again, it's that borderline. Yeah, it's an 80s film. It's 82. But part of it feels like a 70s film.
Well, what you said then about he was top billed, that goes back. I'm probably going to butcher it now until I can find it in fact. But Nick Nolte was given $1 million for this film, where Eddie Murphy was given maybe $500,000. I don't know. It was
400,000, I think.
Okay. And then when it got to another 48 hours, Eddie Murphy was then top billed, and he was given more than Nick Nolte. I've got it somewhere in my facts section about exactly how much they were given, but it's mad.
I think it was $7. It was like $7 million for Eddie Murphy. Sorry.
Yeah. So it's mad to see how after the entire list that you just gave, it's proven to bring him back for the sequel. They've offered it, and that's a lot in 1990. $7 million, if that's what they gave. Yeah,
but like this guy is arguably. I mean, I'm not even sure if it's arguably. He's one of like the 3 biggest stars in the world by like 87, 88. Like after Beverly Hills Cop in particular, this guy's just stratospheric, and it's not just that. It's like Delirious. Obviously, Raw was later on, and I'm like. You know, they're 2 of the biggest stand-up shows of all time. This guy was just massive throughout the 80s. So it's no kind of like burn on Nick Nolte by like 1990 that he's second billing and earning a quarter of what Eddie Murphy's earning. It's like, yeah, because Eddie Murphy's like the biggest star in the world. It's like, you know, Nick Nolte's doing just fine, or at least he was back then anyway. I'm not so sure the past decade or 2, but yeah. But he's a throwback for sure.
This film as well, as you watch this film is a who's who of I know that face.
Yeah, there's loads.
Oh my God. So you had Annette O'Toole, who was in Smallville. She played Clark's mum, but she was also in Superman 3 as Lana Lang. So
yeah, she gets a bit of a short end of the stick in this one for sure.
Oh, very much so. Frank McRae, obviously we've mentioned. James Remar, who people probably know him now for Dexter's dad in the TV show Dexter.
I think so, yeah.
I've always known him back to Ajax from Warriors.
Oh, yeah. There's a few Warriors, because Walter Hill obviously made Warriors before this, so yeah.
Sonny Landham.
Yeah. he's amazing in this film. I can't believe, I was like, they've called him Billy again. Like, he's called Billy just like in Predator, and he even has Billy's knife. Yeah. It's the same fucking knife. It's like they got to Predator. It's just like, just call him Billy again.
We know the story of Sonny Landham. That was probably his knife. He just carried it.
Almost, and you can see it in a few bits. Like at the end, in particular, when he's got that crazy smile, you're like, I reckon this guy's a fucking psycho. But they are both great psychos, by the way. Sorry, I will get to them.
Sorry, it was just you had Brian James then as well, and Jonathan Banks, who again people probably know from and I'm going on record to say this, the god awful Breaking Bad.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah, he was the Walter White's cleaner guy.
Yeah.
Mike, I think his name was in that show.
Yeah, I know one. Yeah.
So it's just
and there's don't forget David Patrick Kelly. Like he's another one.
David. I thought I said David Patrick Kelly. Sorry.
Oh, did you? If you did, I apologize.
David Patrick, obviously, who was famous for being dropped off a cliff by Schwarzenegger in Commando.
It's Sully, wasn't it?
It was Sully, yeah.
Sully, remember when I said I'd kill you last? I lied. I tell you the wildest thing, and I was going to get to this in soundtrack eventually, but the guy who did the soundtrack for this film, James Horner, who's done 1,000,001 soundtracks. Like he's almost certainly done the soundtrack to one of your favorite movies. He's done tons. But the most prominent, or at least the most relevant here, is the fact that he did Commando. Now, Sully, or David Patrick Kelly, is also in Commando. The soundtrack is very prevalent in this film, and sometimes it's a little bit obtrusive. But earlier in the film, it almost sounds like a horror movie. Some of the soundtrack is quite bizarre. But then about halfway through, it goes heavy on the steel drums and the saxophone.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, this is the same fucking soundtrack as Commando. It sounds exactly the same. And never more so than in the scene when Jack and Reggie are chasing Luther, David Patrick Kelly's character. So they're chasing a character from Commando with what I can only describe as the fucking Commando soundtrack playing. It's really bizarre. It totally took me out the film for a second.
Well, it does, because you get a lot of soundtracks that are reused, or not reused, that sound similar. I mean,
the
classic, like we've always said it before, the classic 3 from John Williams.
Oh, yeah, totally. I think it's just because the Commando one, because of the steel drums, is so distinctive. But the fact that it's so distinctive, combined with the fact that the character I'm seeing on screen, I know predominantly, like I know loads of people know him from The Warriors, but I didn't grow up watching them. I've seen The Warriors, but I didn't grow up loving The Warriors. I grew up watching Commando. So, and he's got the same hair. He just looks like fucking Sully from Commando. And I'm like, it's the same soundtrack. Yeah, it was so weird. So weird.
So I think, getting back to the beginning of this film, that escape is lunacy. How that escape worked, for start, that prison escape, is...
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, it starts with a bit of racism. Like, they really go heavy after Sonny Landham, with the Tonto stuff. And let's be clear, like we've kind of tiptoed around it. The Tonto stuff with him, the watermelon stuff, the spear chucker. I mean, it's really old-fashioned racism in this film. And it really stands out, It's like, man, everyone's racist as fuck. So it opens with racism. And then you get that crazy escape scene. As you say, I'm like, yeah, I'm seeing you. I'm surprised it worked, but it was pretty cool. It sets the tone.
What got me for that entire escape then was after they were driving off, just as the credits were rolling, you had the police chief, not the police chief, what am I on about? The prison guard on the phone, on the radio. And he said it really quickly, so I don't know what he said, but it was a long old spiel, like, escape in progress, one Indian, one white guy, like, and he said it like a lot. Like they got away in an old beat up pickup truck, they've killed 2 guards. He went on for about 30, 40 seconds. And then you just have the radio. Say it again.
Oh, dude, I can't say it again. Look, this guy's shooting at me.
No.
I tell you what,
for some reason, that took me out of the movie. What?
Well, that was the weird thing, like watching this film again, coming into it and not knowing what to expect. And this kind of went well beyond, obviously, the opening sequence, the getaway, and then the stuff with Nick Nolte, until Eddie Murphy shows up. Remember, this is being sold as a comedy. I'm like, this is a proper gritty police drama. It's not a comedy at all. It's got funny bits because Eddie Murphy's in it, and he has some funny lines. And yeah, they have some great back and forth. This is, like you said, this is not a comedy. This isn't just a crime drama. This is a gritty as fuck, almost 70s style crime drama.
Yeah.
And it's even like the city, because San Francisco is one of like the 2 great movie cities. It's arguably, just behind New York in terms of the great movie cities.
Yeah.
And it was great seeing this film back in 82 before the tech boom, any of that nonsense. It's still got all the iconic, slopes and everything. And, the great thing about San Francisco is one of those cities, like you feel like you've been there before you go there. And I was lucky enough to go there a couple of years ago, and you're just like, man, it feels like I'm in a movie. Same as when you go to New York, it has that same vibe of like, it feels like I've been here before because I've seen it in so many films. But the great thing about it is that, like the film itself, it's a really gritty representation of San Francisco. You think of the other big films, like even going back to the 50s with Vertigo. Vertigo didn't feel gritty. And then later on, obviously, The Rock and Bullet, even in the 70s, and Big Trouble, which we've covered. They're all great San Francisco movies, but I'm not sure any of them have felt quite as gritty as this one. And I thought it was great to see it on screen, because now I think when most people think of San Francisco on screen, you think of like Missed Outfire or something like that,
the camera work on this is fantastic. Like I said, it makes it all feel, feel seedy, makes it feel just dark and gritty and real. Yeah. I guess for what the film is, it makes it feel real.
Well, like you said, like a part of that is I think it's one of those underrated things, because it's easy to get caught up in the performances of Nick Nolte and obviously Eddie Murphy in particular. But I think the direction of this film is fantastic. Like you said, you said it perfectly.
It's like great in this film.
It's really beautiful. Not beautifully isn't the right term, but masterfully shot. So it's a great looking movie for sure.
When he goes to pick up Reggie, who's he talking to?
Can I ask one question before we get to that? Because obviously that's a mystery. Was it made clear exactly why he needed to get Reggie to find Gans? Because I was like, he went to pick up Eddie Murphy. I was like, wait a minute, why does he need Eddie Murphy? Because
it was that random link of when James Remar, Gans, is on the phone hiring a hooker.
On a payphone, which is classic 80s.
And Billy Beard is sat on a park bench with what you assume is a drunk, then you realise it's a dead body. And you get that line from Eddie Murphy then going, "Oh, I know him, that's Walter. He's a friend. He's looked better."
He's the totally.
But it's one of those 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon kind of thing. Where sorry, I just drunk my own thought away.
Drunk my own thought away.
So that guy then was linked to Gans and Eddie Murphy separately.
Oh, okay. The thing is, they kind of jump over that. They might actually explain it, but I mean, to take it back a step to when we're talking about the direction of this film, it was only like I had to look it up afterwards. But in that scene, obviously, it's Nick Nolte back in the police station, and it's super hectic. And I was like, I think this is a one shot.
It is a one shot.
An amazing scene where it's like there's so much going on. It all feels so naturalistic. There's people coming in and out of frame, in and out of focus. You know, in terms of who's the important person. And I was like, this could have been a nothing scene when they're just back in the station. I'm like, he's made something a scene. It's like you say, it's a 3-minute one shot.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, you could easily let it kind of wash over you, not paying attention. But I think I got so caught up in the technicalities of that scene where I was like, I think he's just doing this one shot. It's like people keep coming in. I was like, look at all the planning that's going into it. And next thing I know, he's picking up Eddie Murphy. I'm like, I've not been paying attention to the dialogue at all.
We will mention how quick this film goes because obviously it's set over 48 hours.
Another 90-minute film.
Brian James, who was Detective Keyhole, random name. I always thought he was calling him Keyhole. He is used as exposition. He is used to move the plot along. So the first time you see him, he's like, "Oh, Billy Bear's got a gun like you. This is his speed loader, blah, blah, blah." You go over, "Oh, look, there's Walter Cheng. Walter was friends with Reggie. This is how we get to Reggie." And then you move it along after Nick Nolte, who, sorry, I forget his name in this, Jack, obviously.
Jack, yeah.
After Jack loses Reggie, and they're having a conversation, then Keyhole again comes along going, "Oh, some guy called for you, the detective who you broke up that bar with yesterday."
Yeah. He's just there to move it along.
Just to move it along. So that's quite a good plot device. So you've just got one random guy there who's there just to push the story forward.
Well, yeah, it's great. And again, it's something we've come across so many times in these movies from the 80s, is that so many of them, the pace is so quick. And you think of all these, like the average running time of a movie now has to be 2 hours. Back then, it was like they were knocking movies out 90 minutes across the board. And you can tell with that scene, it's a masterful scene. But the emphasis is like, listen, just get the information out as quickly as possible because we just want to get Nick Nolte and Eddie Murphy on the screen as quickly as possible. Yeah. We don't need to drag this out. And I can imagine as well, they were watching it and like, we're 20 minutes in. We've not seen Eddie Murphy. And so far, this film is gritty as fuck. There's not a joke anywhere near it for the first 20 minutes. And I'm convinced that they had that introduction with Eddie Murphy, which feels slightly, that's the only part of the film where I feel like he feels like Eddie Murphy rather than Reggie, is when he's walking up to his cell.
And you can hear Roxanne.
Roxanne! Like, and he's singing with the headphones on. Yeah, and it feels like an SNL sketch. That's the only time in the film where it feels like an SNL sketch. And then after that, it's like, no, he's just an actor. And he's just, you know.
That's when we go back to me asking who Nick Nolte was talking to. Because he's clearly walking on his own. Mm-hmm. He walks into he's just outside the cell and he goes, "That him?" Like the only person he could be talking to is Reggie's roommate.
Yeah.
But Reggie's roommate doesn't know he's looking for Reggie. Nick Nolte's walked in and gone, "That him?" Like,
who are you? Are you talking to a ghost?
It's like when people used to ring on landlines and the number wouldn't come up. And you go, "Hello," and they go, "It's me." Who the fuck is me?
Who the fuck are you? Yeah. Only this. It's like a Sixth Sense moment. He's talking like, is this like a secret horror film? I have no idea, or a ghost story at the very least.
And then straight away, I never come across a Walkman where you could shout into.
Yeah, that made no sense. He like picked up the Walkman, shouted into it, and it somehow made it down into his earphones.
I think maybe they just... Is there a microphone on there? But then does that cut over the... Like, I didn't get that.
How new is the technology of that? But I mean, when were Walkmans released? I mean, they couldn't have been out for long. So I'm just assuming they're just like
early 80s,
Yeah, I'm thinking it's relatively new tech. They're like, listen, just shout into it. It'll be funny, even though it makes fucking zero sense. But no, it doesn't make any sense at all. Excuse me.
Well, but yeah, in regards to two characters having an introduction, and let's get that out of the way straight away. This is classed as a buddy cop or a buddy. They fucking hate each other.
Yeah, well, that's the weird thing. Like the whole buddy cop thing. Like when you think of buddy cops and when you think of the start of the genre, everybody thinks obviously of Lethal Weapon with Danny Glover and Gibson, obviously. And don't get me wrong, they're fantastic. And I think maybe because they don't think of like this can't be a buddy cop movie because he's not a cop. But let's be clear, for the vast majority of this film, he might as well be a cop. And by the end, he very much feels like a cop. I'm like, why isn't this given the credit as the genuine start of the buddy cop genre? Because it absolutely is. Like this predates Lethal Weapon by what,
but again,
4 or 5 years?
Can it be classed as a buddy cop if they're not buddy? Like they're civil at the end of this film.
I think by the end, I am so on board with their relationship by the end. Like Nick Nolte, let's be clear, and we've hardly mentioned him so far. He's great in this film, just to be clear. He's an asshole. Like he's an asshole to his girlfriend, Annette O'Toole.
To everyone, he's a dick.
No one likes him.
When he first meets the two coppers, I did question. Like the one copper, the one from Breaking Bad, he was all right, he was civil. And then the other copper straight away was like, fuck you, Kate. Just literally. Yeah. And I'm thinking, why are you so like up in this guy's business? And
he's
as
the
you
worst
go along, you think, oh, that's right, because basically Jack Cates is a wanker.
Oh, he's total wanky. Like he treats his girlfriend like shit. And again, there's no closure on that, just to be clear. He treats like shit the whole film, and then that just disappears. So there's no closure on that. But he's the biggest asshole in the world. But by the end, the kind of begrudging kind of respect, like the moment, there's 2 moments that got me. The moments in the, and again, it shouldn't work. Like when he comes in and that kind of thing, and he's, and he's like, he goes, and they're right next to each other. The camera gets in real close, and he's like, oh man, when I called you an N-bomb, and that time when I called you a watermelon and stuff like that. And he's like, oh, I'm really, man, I'm sorry, I didn't mean any of that. And it's a ridiculous scene, but it totally works for his character. Like it feels like I buy into it for Jack Cates, because Jack Cates is such an asshole. For him to come in and apologize, even in that clumsy way, must have been massive for him. And that, combined with the scene with the police chief, where the police chief is in full-on tirade mode, like all-time classic tirade, and they're both sitting next to each other, and their heads are almost touching, and they're like I think he's handcuffed to him. Yeah. And the way they back each other up, he's like, man, stop giving him shit, and you're like, oh, he's the better cop than any of these.
And he's like, he's the best partner I've had, and things like that. Oh, I get what you're saying.
By the end, I'm like, these guys really are buddies, like in their own weird way.
I still feel there's a bit of you're the convict and I'm.
Oh yeah, well, again though, they've moved it with that classic line by the police chief. It's like, shut your fucking mouth, convict. It's like all the way through the film, Jack's been saying that. But then it moves to, oh, it's just what cops are like. Cops are assholes, white, black, whatever. And by the end, it's like, no, Jack has totally got Reggie's back and Reggie's got Jack's back. So I know what you mean. Then for the most of the film, it's very begrudging. And let's be clear, like 10 minutes before that, they are legitimately having a very aggressive fist fight. But then in those last few minutes when Reggie chooses to do the right thing rather than go after the money, and Jack has his back, and I'm just like, oh, I'm totally on board. You can see why they made a sequel. The sequel was shit, but you can see why they did it. Because
you remember the sequel. You remember the sequel, but you don't remember this.
Well, no, I say that's unfair because I've not actually seen it, but I know it's poorly regarded. I think that's fair to say.
It's a classic thing with what was it, 8 years later? It was just a cash grab.
Exactly, yeah. You wanted this in like 80. They should have been made that in 85. Like that was the year when he had a gap. It should have been between Beverly Hills Cop and Golden Child. Yeah. Should have been another 48 hours. But like you said, regardless of what you think about like the technicalities, I still think this really is. It's got all the hallmarks of a buddy cop film. Yeah. I mean, even with like the cars, like I love the fact that you think of another buddy cop film, something like Bad Boys. Like Jack is the complete opposite of Mike Lowry. Like Mike Lowry's got like a Ferrari, he's got a Porsche 911, and he's driving like a 1950s, like totally busted up Cadillac DeVille. He's like the least cool character in the world.
Do you know who owns that car now?
No.
that actual car.
The blue Cadillac DeVille.
Is now owned by Vanilla Ice.
Oh my God.
Honestly.
Why? All right, fair enough. We'll just
Vanilla Ice now owns it, and he's done it up, and it is mint now.
Oh, it's a lovely car. Yeah. Like if it wasn't so busted. But again, that was another classic thing about like this being a movie of its time. It's like no seatbelts, smoking all the fucking time. It's unbelievable.
You said something a little earlier on, which was quite interesting about there's no closure with his Mrs. Elaine, was it in the film?
Elaine, yeah.
the other non-closure was David Patrick Kelly, Luther's missus.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. It was abducted by Gans.
So she was abducted by Gans, and all the way through the film, she's being dragged around by them. Mm-hmm. Then you had that scene on the bus.
Where the fuck did they get that bus from?
But after that, after the bus, after Luther gets taken out, the next time you see Gans, she's nowhere around. So that's open-ended as well. Like, did he actually just take her out? Did he just let her go? Well,
yeah, it's weird. So like, it's kind of just like the women.
Yeah, exactly. So the women are just not given. Again, they're just used as plot devices to carry something forward, but then they're not given the closure that I guess is needed at some point.
It is a bit of. I mean, do I need the closure? I'm not sure. Like, I like the fact that it keeps speeding along. I know it's unfair. It's like, yeah, it's like what happens with Elaine? What happens with Luther's girlfriend? And more importantly, what happened to Gans's knitted vest? What happened to that knitted fucking vest, man?
Elaine, I can deal with. I mean, Kate is a prick. That's fine. You know, but I just want to know what happened to her, like where she went. And I don't know why. I think it was just because I felt for her. She's being dragged along. But
see, I'm the complete opposite. Sorry, yeah.
Sorry, I'm just saying his vest. I'm assuming there's some like deleted scenes where he's given his vest to her or something just to help, just just send her on her way. Just oh my god.
They've got very strong looks. Although the one thing I'll say about Sonny Landham is Billy Bear. In the opening sequence where they're on the park bench, I'm like, man, he looks like a movie star in that scene. Like when he's wearing the jeans and the cap, he looks handsome as shit in that scene. And I'm like, man, he's the fucking business. He's cool and shit. And then it feels like 2 minutes later, I'm seeing him run down the street in leather pants, a giant white 70s style shirt, hair pillow, and I'm like, he doesn't look so cool now. He doesn't look nearly as cool,
man. Did you notice the hooker? Because I know on the phone, he said, look, I want one for my friend. She's got to be an Indian. No, not one of them, a squaw.
Yeah.
And then when you see her, they just dressed a woman as Pocahontas and just sent her.
Well, two things. She's clearly in fancy dress, and I'm pretty sure when Jack comes upstairs, she starts speaking Spanish. So I'm pretty sure she's actually Spanish and like you said, really fancy dress. Like the nearest store, do you have a Pocahontas dress? Yeah, we'll go with that. It's a weird and utterly pointless exchange.
Billy Bear didn't really speak much except for screaming Gantz's name half the time.
Yeah.
He never once hinted that he is full-blooded, proud Native American.
No, not at all.
But everyone else around him is going, oh yeah, the Indian dude, the Native American one. All he talks about is being Native American. Like, does he?
Yeah, he's kind of like, he's a proud Native American by association rather than by any kind of facts that we're seeing.
Did he really just want a Native American prostitute?
I think Gans just threw it in there.
Or did Gans just stereotype him straight away and go, oh, the only woman you want to sleep with is somebody dressed like Pocahontas?
It's weird. And I mean, those two, just put it down to the fact that Gans is a psycho. And just be clear, like, as a double act in particular, I totally buy into them as being absolute psychos. Like, I think of Gans, what's his name? James Remar. Supposedly, he went without sleep to give his character like a washed out look, to look desperate. And I think it's because he was playing really well. Yeah, he totally does. And I think because he's playing alongside Sonny Landham and he sees it, it's like, dude, this guy's a psycho and I'm supposed to be the crazy guy. So I was like, I think he went to great lengths to go that extra mile to really look crazy. And dude, man, as a double act, I don't think anyone matches him. I'm like, they look insane. And you're like the last people you would ever want to run into. And one thing they love to do in this film, those two in particular, but everyone, is shoot people in the chest.
Yeah.
Two things that keep happening in this film. People get shot in the chest and glass gets smashed. All the time. It feels like every 2 minutes. We got to smash some glass and we got to shoot someone in the chest. And it's like that violent, they had giant squibs. So they get shot. It looks like everybody's being shot with a magnum,
You're on about shooting. What has Kate's got on everybody that he didn't face any reprimand whatsoever except for one guy telling him, you lost your gun, to the fact that there is now a bad guy running around shooting cops with his gun.
I don't know, man. It's like
it's okay because it's Jack. It's fine. Jack will sort this out. He lost his gun, but it's no problem.
Well, it's like he brushes it off. They try and make it like he comes back and everyone's giving him shit. He's like, go fuck yourself. Yeah. And it's like, well, that's Jack. That's what. And Jack does that all the way through the film. again, he's such a 70s guy. And even the look, like the hair, even his trousers. Like Eddie Murphy, he's got the suit and stuff. You see him, he looks 80s. Early 80s, but he looks 80s.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But Jack, when he comes out and he's got the slightly flared trousers with like the line kind of ironed into them, like the hair, the jacket. If you told me he was running in from a movie from 1976, you'd be like, yeah, he fucking looks like it as well. But I just wonder with Nick Nolte, because obviously 82 was the year I was born, and I don't have the same attachment to 70s movies. Was he seen as like an attractive leading man? Like, I don't know what the deal is in this film, because obviously Annette's kind of very keen on him and stuff. But, you know, he's very much a quintessentially man's man. He's got voice like...
that's what I was going to say.
He's got voice like gravel and a fucking head like a shovel. But I maybe can see the appeal in that kind of like he's ultra masculine or something. But I don't know, man. Like, is he handsome? I have no idea.
I don't think... Yeah, I think it's more to go down the man's man route with him. It's just like he knows what he wants. And apparently back then, people thought that that's what women wanted. Kind of thing. So
well, I think we're looking at here is like we're looking at a film which is 39 years old, and I think in 1982 his character is supposed to be out of touch. So even he's supposed to be out of touch and out of time for 1982, let alone for 2021. Although, and that's why I think.
Speaking of out of touch, and I can't believe it worked when Eddie Murphy walks up to some woman and going, "I need some trim. I gotta be back to it. I need some pussy." Like, how did that work? She's like, "Oh,
I just love the term trim." He comes up all the way through the film. Like there's quite a few like kind of old time. Like he keeps like when he's calling him Jack at the start.
Yeah,
it's not like he knows his name. It's just like, "Hey, what's happening, Jack?" Like that. It's like a 70s thing. Like he says, "Oh, I'm a bit out of touch," because again, he's been in prison. It's like jive is used, Jack. And then he's using trim. Oh, I gotta get some trim. I'm like, trim? I'm like, oh, I'm absolutely gonna steal that. I'm gonna start using that every day.
Says it, oh my God. Let me know how hard Beth slaps you when you say you want some trim from her next time.
I'm hoping she'll see the funny side, but there's a big problem. She fucking hated this film. She hated this film because she had never seen it before. She watched it for 20 minutes. She looked at me and she was like, "I hate this film." And then she went to sleep. And I was like, okay. I was like, "Did you hear anything about trim?" She goes, "Yeah, it wasn't funny." I was like, okay. Yeah, I thought it was pretty. I was like, I love this film. It was just like, we couldn't have disagreed more on this one.
But when he even turned around and said to her, "Okay, let's go across the street. You got any money? Because I'm gonna." So you're not even gonna pay for the hotel, and she was still up for it, mind.
Well, he still nailed her at the end. Like that was weird that she was the one girl who. Well, by the end of the film, Jack doesn't have his woman, but he gets his man, I suppose. Yeah. And Reggie, who's been trying all film, finally gets laid. That's his closure. The
good thing, when Jack gives him, before everything kicks off, before they see Luther again, because they think Luther's just in the hotel room, just ready to go. When Jack gives him those weird crumpled up notes to go across and to go to the woman and take her across the road, Reggie sees that this woman now is talking to some guy, and he walks up to him and he's going, "What are you doing with my wife? What are you doing with my wife?" And he looks at her. And the word, I didn't write it down, but I'm pretty sure it was something like the lack of pussy makes you brave or something.
Oh yeah.
As he's just looking at this 7-foot man.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the film is like, I get the idea that he's been in prison and then he's horny.
Yeah.
But they run that into the ground. Like he's horny all the way through. Like he's constantly like, "Dude, I just want to get some trim. I can get some trim. Okay, maybe some food, but then after that, some trim."
That erection line as well. You sure you can get it up? I've been in prison for 3 years. If the wind blows, if the wind changes direction, I get stiff or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, and they're just scattergun all the way through the film. But yeah, like you said, that is literally, sure, he turns the corner a bit and he and Jack, and he does the right thing. But I really do think his closure for the film is getting laid at the end of it. Although, at least at the end of it, and again, you can make the argument, is he telling the truth? I buy the fact that he genuinely likes that girl. And that, I'm not sure if she shows up in the sequel or anything, but that idea that when he gets out of prison, he's going to call her and take her out on a proper date and stuff. Which, let's be honest, she fucking deserves, because the lines he was giving her were absolute I know Eddie Murphy's handsome and charming, but man, those lines were pretty bad. Like you said, to not even have the money to back it up. I'm like, come on, Eddie, you've got to do better than that.
In regards to money as well, the moral code, I guess, as a copper in the 80s, where he's just like, "Oh yeah, so it's fine because you robbed the drug dealer, so that money's yours. You keep the money. Just lend me a couple of grand to
yeah.
get a new car, but I'm not going to take your money. I'll just hide your money for you until you get back out. Like,
But somehow selling it like he's doing the right thing.
Yeah.
It's like he's somehow taking the moral high ground.
You're a copper. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, but I think again that plays into that idea that they've become friends by the end. Like he could have easily thrown him under the bus with that, but it's just like, man, he's been so good that he's had it tough, and it's like, I want him to get what he deserves, even if he's done it by illegal means. It's like, listen, this is my investigation. That's got nothing to do with me. Of course, the fact that he wants a free car out of it maybe makes it a bit more of a grey area. But I think they're just like, listen, yeah, maybe it doesn't make sense, but it plays into their character or them as a duo, I suppose. Kind of thing. But like the weird thing is, like you said, because I guess are we getting towards the end of the film now?
Yeah, I think you mentioned the word scatter. We've scattered through this film, and the only thing, going back to when you said about being gritty and being like, no more so than looking at David Patrick Kelly's character, because my God, that guy looked like he was just constantly on some sort of withdrawal from something. He
always looks
sketchy.
He does like crazy really well. But like you said, like if you want to play into the whole gritty part, it's when he gets caught by Jack and Reggie. And you think in a lot of movies, he would like, rough him up, he would hit him into the car, he might punch him or something like that. The way he just manhandles Luther is like there's nothing like glamorous about it whatsoever. He essentially just grabs him, he throws him in his car, but he just shakes the shit out of him. It was like that equivalent of like a bigger kid in the playground just roughing you up. It's like he doesn't really punch you, he's not leaving any marks on you, but he's just letting you know that he can absolutely manhandle you. And it's like, Nick Nolte's this big huge guy, and he just grabs him and just shakes the shit out of him. I'm just like, oh man, I prefer to be punched in the face. I would hate a larger man to just put his hands on me like that and just rough me up. I mean, obviously, you have to be a pretty big guy. But
that's it, mate. I think you're safe.
Although prime Nick Nolte, of course, he's not as tall as me, but fuck, he's not in shape. It's that old-fashioned, but he's a big fucking unit.
Yeah.
And a great fight scene with Eddie Murphy, actually.
Sorry?
Great fight scene with Eddie Murphy.
Very good fight scene, yeah. And again, really done really well with the direction. Walter Hill, his director credits are not, there's not a lot, but his story credits. Have you seen his story credits, like written by credits?
No, I went for the direct. I just looked at the obvious ones, like, most famously The Warriors. He did Last Man Standing, which I quite enjoyed. Red Heat, which is an oddly similar film in terms of, like an odd couple. He wrote that, didn't he? Or he was involved?
Yeah, that's right, in his story credits, yeah.
These were what he directed specifically.
Yeah.
And bizarrely, Brewster's Millions, but sorry.
Yeah. So his story credits, then, so you've already said a couple of them, but then one that we are going to cover on here, and I don't think you've watched, Streets of Fire.
No, I've not seen that.
Oh my God. Streets of Fire is meant to be some sort of Western, but set in 60s, like a Detroit era town where it's Willem Dafoe.
A neo-Western kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, Willem Dafoe was the leader of a motorcycle gang. Diane Lane is in it as the woman that gets kidnapped by Willem Dafoe. Michael Pear as the guy that gets called in to help, who coincidentally used to go out with Rick Moranis as Diane Lane's boyfriend now. It's it's not a good film.
Interesting film.
But it's good to watch.
Honestly, it is. I'll have a look for sure.
So, sorry, Aliens and Red Heat, you've already said. Obviously, another 48 Hours. He wrote Alien 3. The Getaway with Alec Baldwin and Kim Basinger. What else? Undisputed with Ving Rhames, and Wesley Snipes. I mean, he's predominantly action, which is what he seems to like to write. And I mean, he can hit or miss with it, but he's not really been too bad.
No, he's had a weird career because, as I said, like reading the films he's directed, and obviously The Warriors is a big film. This was a big one, but those were his two biggest. Like those, when you look at his IMDb, there's no two ways about it. Like, what was The Warriors? Late 70s, 79, something like that.
77, I think, was it?
Oh, maybe 77. Sorry. And then this was 82, and it's like, he's made some decent films throughout the 80s. But I mean, he did, what was it? Bullet to the Head was supposed to be his big comeback with Stallone, and it was just like, it was so bang average.
You were right. And Warriors was 79, by the way.
79.
And Bullet to the Head was, it was something.
Yeah, I think it was like 2012 or something, and it wasn't a classic. And you just think you watch this film in particular, I think, and as we've mentioned the direction previously, you're like, why didn't he do more movies like this? Why doesn't he have a more impressive IMDb? And I know that sounds harsh, given the fact that he has made some good films, but it's like after 82, there's no more classics. Like you said, there are in terms of his writing credentials, but in terms of direction, there are okay, good films after this, but there's nothing on the same level as The Warriors or 48 Hours after this, and it's just a bit of a shame, I think. But
wait until you watch Streets of Fire.
Okay, well, I will have to give that a go.
Then you'll see where his direction goes.
Although I think I'll make the argument that in this film, I think you can see the moment that 80s cinema truly started, because for the most part, as I said, it feels like quite a gritty cop drama with just moments of levity based on their very aggressive kind of camaraderie, whatever you want to call it. But then at the end, when they have the showdown with Gans and Billy, all of a sudden, smoke shows up out of nowhere. There's neon everywhere, and it's not been there for most of the film. And it's like even Nick Nolte, who's been a super gritty 70s style police officer, gets like an 80s action movie finale. It's really weird. It's
where
like
did they end up?
It's like they're down an alleyway, and Gans has got Eddie Murphy, and all of a sudden Nick Nolte is standing in the smoke, neon lit, and he's just standing there like something out of fucking Highlander. And he comes out, and it's a great moment because obviously it cuts back to earlier where he doesn't shoot him. And I do love when it's nothing dramatic. He just shoots him straight away.
Yeah.
But he gets like the sign-off line. And it's like all of a sudden, for like the last 10 minutes of this film, I'm like, man, this suddenly feels 80s as fuck. It's really weird.
But Gans does really well in that as well, because all throughout the film, he's thinking he's superpowered.
Yeah.
Like nobody can touch him. And when, as you said, there's no end, like there's no sign-off line before he shoots him. And then Gans is just like,
I can't believe you shot me.
I can't believe you shot me, yeah. And then you get Nick Nolte say his line, which is, you're done now, or something like that. And
it's quite lame, actually. Again, I don't think it suits the characters to have that line.
But when they go from Billy Bear's missus's house, wow, that was a lot of S's.
Billy Bear missus's house, yeah.
Yeah. When they go from her house and they go outside, I don't understand where they've ended up in, like, some sort of weird... like another film, because I don't.
Yeah, that's what it feels like.
Because it was all lit well, and then they end up in an alleyway that you don't think should be there. I don't understand.
Well, it almost feels like for the last those 10 minutes, it's almost like something out of Blade Runner. It's so heavily neon lit. There's so much smoke, as you say. It's not just they feel like they're suddenly in a different city. It feels like it's a different movie in a different genre in a different decade. Yeah. And I'm convinced that the last 10 minutes of 1982's 48 Hours is where the 80s truly started. Because, as I said before, a lot of films in the very early 80s feel like 70s film. And I think I've mentioned this before, like, you think like Rambo is the one that always springs to mind, because when you think of Rambo, you think of him being the quintessential 80s
I always thought it was kind of a 70s film, but it's
well, the first one's super. I mean, obviously it was written in the 70s and that's a part of it, but the first film it's paced like a 70s film, it's shot like a 70s film, it's acted like a 70s film, and it's only when you get to Rambo 2, which feels a million miles away from First Blood, that suddenly it's like, oh no, that's when put it this way, the Rambo in Call of Duty Warzone, that Rambo is not from First Blood. I can tell you that much. He's not wearing torn up. He's not wearing, torn up tarpaulin over him and running around in the mountains fighting a bunch of
carrying a deer over his shoulders, just
fighting a bunch of second rates, part-time cops. He's the one going to Vietnam, killing an entire army, on his own, basically bulletproof, like this ridiculous 80s action hero. And like you said, it's the 80s movies didn't start in 1980. They started around 82, or to be specific, at the end of this film. It's very bizarre. Very bizarre. Yeah. So I'm gonna give this film the distinction of being the third. Well, no, it's not the first 80s film. It's part of the first 80s film, I suppose. I'm getting there eventually.
As aggressive as Nick Nolte is in this film, he is the most aggressive when he goes back again to Billy Bear missus's house.
Oh, and when he gets his hand on her neck.
Yeah. Oh my God. That was like, he turned it up a level. He's got the gun in her face. He's got the hand on her neck, and he is just literally just telling her, look, unless you tell me what's going on up there right now, you are screwed.
And it's not just that; it's the visuals of it. It's not like in a movie thing where he's got his hand around her neck. It looks like he's there, like I'm going to crush your windpipe.
And she's being pushed against the wall. It's just, oh my God, that's abuse to another level. That is.
Yeah. He's aggressive in that scene. But as I said, it's just the whole thing about buying into him as this character. Like, and again, it's easier with Nick Nolte because you always buy him as the gruff, tough guy. It's like he's big, he's tough, he's got the voice and stuff. But the thing that the takeaway from this, and as good as he is how much I totally buy Eddie Murphy as an ex-con and as a tough guy. Like when he gets into a fight with Nick Nolte, I buy the fact that he can fight with him. When he goes into the bar and he owns the bar, and he's like, more so than Beverly Hills Cop, which is much more like. Don't get me wrong, Beverly Hills Cop has its more serious bits as well. Like it's an action comedy rather than a comedy with action in it. But this. Above all else, you buy him as a tough guy, like a wisecracking tough guy.
Well, when he walks into that bar, you've said it a couple of times already, but the fact that as a character to own yourself in that bar, where let's not lie, probably 90% of them are going to be racists in that bar.
Oh, 100%, yeah, very much play up on that.
Yeah, and the fact that he's just there, and from what anyone else sees, he has no backup. You've got some nuts cop in there who's not even flashed a gun at this point, just a badge really quickly. And everyone is just like, oh shit, this guy must be nuts because he's come into here. And we're going to... And like they all just try and push him out first until he just does his tirade and he puts the bartender's hat on and he just starts going about it. Look, all I know is she lives down the road. His missus lives down the road.
And the thing is, if he wasn't convincing as being tough in that scene, and that's a weird way to put it, it would become a comedic scene. It would become a sketch. And of course, again, he has a few funny lines in that scene. But for the most part, he sells it as like, the way they kind of react at first, like, who the fuck is this guy? But then when they suddenly all back off and go, this guy's a fucking cop. First time they buy him as cop, and it's like, this guy's fucking crazy. Like, don't fuck with him. Just like, the sooner we put up with this shit, the sooner you'll be out of here. Like, that's how quickly, it's like they're on the offensive, but how quickly, because of his actions and his believability, they're like, nah, man, just fucking need this guy. He's too fucking crazy. And as I said, if you don't buy him in that role, then it just becomes a sketch, but it never feels like a sketch. And that's why, you have that great line about him being with a badge, which is just brings the house down that line. It's fantastic. But yeah, Eddie, obviously, Nick Nolte's great. The supporting cast is great, but make no mistake, this is Eddie Murphy's film. What a starting.
What a debut for motion picture to go from Saturday Night Live into this, because he owns it. The material that he's given is elevated because of him. There's no way around it. It is.
Well, supposedly they actually a lot of it's like the dialogue between Nick Nolte and Eddie Murphy. Supposedly, tons of it the vast majority of it was supposedly improvised. I'm not sure how true that is, but
80 Saturday Night Live usually.
Yeah, but but it only works if you're both shit hot. I've seen it in films where you get even comedians. You put them next to Eddie Murphy, and especially if they're doing improvisation, the other one can freeze up or it doesn't work because. It's no good if one of them's just throwing out all these lines and the other one doesn't know how to react, and you lose that naturalistic back and forth. But because Nick Nolte's so on point in this film, like you said, their relationship, as bad as it is and then as good as it gets, feels totally convincing because of those interactions. And when you said
that then about you've seen films where it doesn't work, did one come to mind? Because I can tell you what came to mind for me.
What was that?
Cop Out.
Oh, dude, it was literally in my head. It was, I swear to God. I was like,
Tracy Morgan.
There's no way he's thinking of Cop Out. Oh my God. That is the worst buddy cop film of all time. Yeah. It's horrible.
Yeah. It's just because Bruce Willis is trying to do some sort of improvisation.
Can't do it.
Basically, because Bruce Willis has now just gone totally insane.
Yeah.
He is. We could do a whole podcast on how that guy has gone insane. But he's trying to do some improvisation next to probably one of the best improv artists in Tracy Morgan.
And it doesn't work.
Improv comedians.
That's a great example.
Oh, it's...
like, if you want to know how... Like, that is the perfect example. If you want to know how good Nick Nolte is in this film, watch how bad Bruce Willis is in that film. Because you're just like, that's what happens if you don't have someone convincing. And like you said, this isn't all for laughs. Like, Eddie Murphy is... like. don't get me wrong, Tracy Morgan is delivering jokes in that film. That film is a comedy. It's supposed to be a comedy. Cop Out's a complete piece of shit. But this, and again, I think why it works is the fact that Eddie Murphy isn't just throwing out jokes. He doesn't feel like, it doesn't appear to be that he's under pressure to be funny all the time. He's just quick-witted. And Nick Nolte is just as, well, he's not quick-witted, but he is in his own way. And it just works, man. It
goes back to, this is not a comedy.
No.
It's not about like most of Eddie Murphy's humor is coming from his sarcasm than anything else. Like when Nick Nolte says something about the bar that Eddie Murphy's in, he's going, I don't know it. And Eddie Murphy goes, yeah, of course you don't know it. Like, why would you know this bar? You know what I mean? So,
and it's one of the things, it's something, I think we mentioned it last week on Ghostbusters, and it's something that was lost later in the decade, is that a lot of these quote-unquote comedies, they're not comedies in so much that everyone's going for laughs. A lot of them are, first and foremost, established or set largely in the real world for the most part. And they've just got funny characters, but not funny characters who are constant. Like, this one would be completely different if Eddie Murphy was going for a laugh every scene. In the same way, like with Ghostbusters, and how horrible it was with the remake with Paul Feig, when he did turn it into a flat-out comedy and everyone's telling jokes. Whereas you go back and watch Ghostbusters, you're like, no, most people are playing it straight. And then you've got Bill Murray, who isn't always going for laughs. He's just wisecracking. And it's the same with Eddie Murphy in this. He's just cracking wise. He's just quick. He's sharp. And it's funny, but he's not telling jokes.
No, it's the subtle, dry humor. It is the subtle, dry humor that sets it apart and just elevates it to something. Because, to be fair, on paper, this and Ghostbusters shouldn't have worked, couldn't have worked, and could have been something different and something terrible. It's just the fact that you've got, I guess, the chemistry, and
the chemistry is the massive thing.
It all works well. I mean, and like you say, it's not even so much a script, because the improvisation is there, and it does it really well.
Well, it's that difference. It's like, I think when people think buddy cop now, I think people naturally, because of what's happened since, they immediately think funny. And let's be clear, even something like Lethal Weapon became more of a comedy as it went. But in the early 80s, buddy cop didn't necessarily, it meant, there was going to be light-hearted jibes or whatever. And obviously there was always going to be comedy, because basically you're talking about an odd couple. That's what you're really talking about.
Yeah,
but they just happen to be
That's
cops.
what I was going to say. The whole term about buddy cop was it was mismatched characters together and having to deal with them.
Like Lethal Weapon has funny bits, but it's not a comedy. This is a bit funnier than Lethal Weapon, but it's not much funnier. It's bizarre, because the tagline for this is like, a lot of funny things can happen in 48 hours. It's like, not many funny things happen in this fucking film, dude. There's some funny bits, but it's like, to sum up, not a comedy. And that is not a criticism. Not a criticism.
Oh, no. And we've already said this film is great.
Oh, fantastic.
Again, this film would never be made today, but that's on a whole nother
Not in the same way, and it's a shame. It'd be 2 hours long. You'd lose a lot, because I'm not saying racism's a good thing by any stretch, just to be clear, but it adds an edge to this film. Like the racism and that kind of clash of he's white, he's black. It adds an extra layer. And like I said, I'm not saying that's a good thing, but it does add, for lack of a better term, spice to the relationship. And as you say, you're just not getting that today. And I think if it's made today, it feels nasty. Whereas, we're talking a different time. Let's not forget, this is 1980. This is 39 years ago. This is a different time and a different place, for sure.
I don't think this film can be made today. It wouldn't feel the same. And like you said, all of that aside, and you watch it now and you do go, "Ooh, that's a bit sharp," but it was filmed back then. As you go on this ride, it's still, for lack of a better word, an enjoyable ride with two great characters. Both flawed, both just set, for lack of again, set in their ways, but working together for a goal. And it's not really a noble goal. It's stolen money at the end of the day. One wants revenge, one wants their stolen money back.
They're not, and even by the end of the film, let's be clear, they're not like perfect characters, not completely, they've not all turned the corner, but their relationship has. Like, they're forced to work together for the longest time. And then at the end, they do choose to work together. That's the difference. It's like, by the end, they are working as a team. out of choice rather than out of any kind of obligation or situational kind of situation. Jesus Christ! All right, let's just leave it there.
I say, should we move on to facts?
Yeah, go for it, man. Go for it.
I think we've covered quite a lot. Again, we say this every week. I think we've covered quite a lot of them.
Yeah, I think
like my first fact was James Remar went without sleep. We've already said that one.
Mm-hmm.
The police station was done in a single take. That was, according to Nick Nolte in his book, Nick Nolte No Exit, or documentary, sorry, most of the dialogue between him and Eddie Murphy was improvised.
The only one I've got, which isn't, and I was gonna jump in at the start, but, you just had your big kind of quote moment. The quote you used at the start, where it's like, forget this, man, we ain't brothers, we ain't partners, we ain't friends, all that jazz. It's actually the exact same lines used by Samuel L. Jackson as Zeus in Die Hard with a Vengeance. So, I mean, that must have been on purpose, obviously. But
I wanted to bring that up. And I don't want to take it away from you. I searched for the quote as well, and it's McClane says, "Hey partner," and Zeus says, "I ain't your partner, I ain't your neighbor, your brother, or your friend. I'm your total stranger."
Yeah.
So they kind of mix it up a little bit, but
but it's similar at least.
Yeah, but it's still a good line.
Oh yeah, totally. And he's great in that as well. That's another great film, man. Die with a Vengeance. But anyway. That's pretty much everything else I've got. We've already covered.
So I've got a couple more. So Walt, I just need to go through them now because trying to think what we've already said. According to Eddie Murphy, he was almost fired for not being funny.
Oh, that is actually
not made aware of this until after the movie had wrapped.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, because again, he's not telling jokes, and I'm not sure what kind of film they wanted to make, but as we've said a million times, they didn't make a comedy.
So here it is. Reportedly, Eddie Murphy's paycheck was $450,000, whilst Nick Nolte's was $1 million. For the film's sequel, reportedly Nolte got $3 million, whilst Murphy received $7 million.
Oh yeah, well, that sounds about right.
Yeah. Eddie Murphy revealed on Inside the Actors Studio that he didn't know how to act when drawing a gun, so he simply did what he did in every movie since, impersonate the facial expressions of a ready-for-battle martial arts legend, Bruce Lee. Yeah,
I can totally see his face doing it. I totally can, yeah.
The Jack Cates character, played by Nick Nolte, apparently became the inspiration for the Sonny Crockett character on the later hit television series Miami Vice.
Cool.
What else have I got here? Gregory Hines was the first choice to play Reggie Hammond. Gregory Hines, I'm pretty sure the only thing I ever remember, he was in that random dance movie, White Nights, I think it was called, with...
Never seen it.
No, but I want to say Baryshnikov, I can't remember.
Well, I'm glad it was Nick Nolte anyway, so perfect.
Who else was there? Eddie Murphy later confessed that he was the fourth or fifth choice to play Reggie.
It seems crazy now, but you get it. Like, he hadn't been in any films. He was totally untested.
Richard Pryor, Howard E. Rollins Jr., who I'm not familiar with, but young Denzel Washington.
Oh, yeah. All, sound choices. And again, you don't need a comedian in this role, but it adds an extra layer to it for sure.
So we've already said as well, this is the first of 4 movies with Frank McRae as a police captain. But, I mean... Last Action Hero and Loaded Weapon are just taking the piss out of his character.
Of course, yeah. But he does it so well.
So Nick Nolte's character, Jack Cates, was turned down by Mickey Rourke, Sylvester Stallone, and Burt Reynolds.
I can see most of those in the Roman films. Yeah. Different films, but yeah, I get it.
I've already said that the Blue Cadillac is now owned by Vanilla Rice.
Mm-hmm.
The word fuck is used 48 times in its various forms during the course of this film.
Nice. There's a fair bit of cursing.
It appears to be only coincidental to the title of the film.
What? 48 hours?
Yeah, the word fuck is used 48 times.
Oh, Jesus Christ. How the fuck? Sorry, man. Sorry, I was reading the next
bit. Pay attention.
Like 40 hours? What are you talking about? What could the link possibly be? Jesus Christ. Fucking hell. Liam.
And that's it for facts, mate. That's all I've got.
Well, we usually, Jesus, I'm so glad. I've ended both kind of sections now, being a complete moron. Soundtrack, we've already mentioned this. Obviously, James Horner did the score, with the steel drums, the sax. It's a very distinct soundtrack for this. And I'm not sure it always works. I'm not sure if it works for Commando, but Commando it's quite a silly film, Commando. So it seems more suited to that. And it was one of the things, my wife didn't enjoy the film, but she was just like, man, the soundtrack's too much. And early in the film in particular, I'm not sure if it's just early in the film because I wasn't used to it, but I did find it a bit much. But, as I said, this guy's done hundreds of movies. I mean, this guy did everything from Aliens to Titanic. So yeah, it's an odd score, but you know, it adds to the sense that this is quite. I mean, is it a strange? I think it's only a strange film because of maybe what you expect it to be, because of the tagline, because of Eddie Murphy. But yeah, it's a distinct score for sure. The only other one we usually have then is video games, I suppose. And obviously, there was no video game for this movie.
No.
In terms of if you were going to make a video game of this movie now, like I think I mentioned it before for other films, like Kane and Lynch by IO Interactive. If you wanted to go the more action-y route, I think that kind of makes sense. But realistically, and it's only because of the scene where Billy and Gans are on the bus and Reggie and Jack are in the car and they're shooting at them. And what it made immediately while I was watching it, I'm not sure if you remember Chase HQ, which was an arcade game from the 80s, where you were in a police car and you would jump out of the roof and you could shoot basically at like kind of enemies as you went. And I'm like, I'm not sure if it makes sense.
I do remember that. The two coppers.
Yeah. And I think basically the only reason I have that in my head is because I'd really love to see a new Chase HQ, because I remember it being in the arcades down at like Barry Island when I was younger, and I was like, I fucking love playing that game.
That's where I played it. Or at the High Tide Inn in Porthcawl.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
But I was like, you could have the two different cars. You could start in Jack's Cadillac DeVille, and then you could move on to Reggie's, I think it's supposed to be a Porsche 356 Speedster, although I'm pretty sure the one in the film is actually a replica. It's like an Mechanica, I think it is, 356. But it's basically a rip-off of what the Porsche or it should be. And that Porsche should get more of a shout because that car is fucking dope.
It is lovely.
So yeah, I'm like, if I'm making a common sense choice, I'm like something like Kane and Lynch. But really, what I want to see is a full-on 80s. I just want to see Jack and Reggie in a car shooting down enemies as they drive around San Francisco, Chase HQ style.
Well, I mean, that kind of goes to what I would say was I'd have it as a Rocksteady-esque game.
Yeah.
Like,
that's
in the vein of
great
GTA
show.
Or something like that, because it's a lot of
like GTA 5, like GTA 5 when you can skip between the characters.
Yeah,
you can skip between Reggie and Jack, and they're two distinct worlds. Like,
but it would be interesting, not even skipping, but skipping between Gans and Billy Bear as well.
That'd be interesting, yeah.
Yeah, so because you can do it from either side, but it does feel, because the running through San Francisco, the drive-in, the shoot-in, everything. It has that GTA-esque vibe to it.
Yeah. And a GTA game set in San Francisco or a San Francisco substitute would be pretty fucking awesome.
Yeah. So for me, it would be a Rocksteady-esque kind of game.
Oh no, that's much better than mine. I mean, don't get me wrong. I still want to see Chase HQ, like with these guys. But yeah, realistically, I think you've got a bang on there. I think if you went, what was it called? Oh, the one set in Hong Kong. It was really similar to it.
Sleeping Dragons.
Sleeping Dragons.
Yeah.
Go Sleeping Dragons. So it's still like a GTA-ish clone, but you're on the right side of the law. Yeah. But obviously, with Jack and Reggie, they're very much just about on the right side of the law. So you can still kick people's ass and stuff, but you've still got to just about play by the rules. I'm like, I think I'd go that route.
Because you've said as well, Sleeping Dragons, which is great.
Is this Sleeping Dogs?
Sleeping Dogs, sorry, not Sleeping Dragons.
Sleeping Dogs, yeah. How the fuck did I forget? I put so many hours in Sleeping Dogs.
Yeah, I loved it.
I love that game.
The Getaway.
Yeah, The Getaway. Although The Getaway, let's be clear, The Getaway is just not as good as Sleeping Dogs.
No, it's not, but The Getaway is more that if you were doing it from Gans and Billy Bear's side, I think The Getaway clone kind of thing would work.
I'm not sure if you could even do it with Gans and Billy Bear because they're just too unlikable. They're just the worst. Like Gans's whole thing is that he just loves shooting people. That's it. It's like,
that's a game. That's a game.
Yeah, it is a game, but you've got that's a fucking light gun shooter. That's what Gans is playing. Gans isn't playing Grand Theft Auto. He's playing fucking House of the Dead with human beings.
Gans is Nathan Drake at this point, just shooting
everyone, but without any kind of quips.
Yeah,
just being horrible and just wearing a knitted vest. But you've got to wear a knitted vest the whole time.
All right, let's go with a Sleeping Dogs-esque Grand Theft Auto kind of game. I think that would. Or if we really wanted it, you'd have a Chase HQ arcade version of this. Yeah.
And just be clear, I know you've said Gans and Billy Bear. I think if you go like hardcore arcades, maybe if I'm playing like a Sleeping Dogs,
you
want to
go Reggie and.
Oh my god! Now you've said it. I totally want to play Sleeping Dogs, the 40 hours version. I'm like, that would be perfect. And just to be clear, Sleeping Dogs is better than Grand Theft Auto.
Yes,
I know. it's not written as well, but the gameplay is so much better.
I don't like the Grand Theft Auto games. I've never liked them. No, I've never liked them.
I think the scale of them gets me. I remember when Grand Theft Auto 3 came out, I took it back to the shop a week after it was released. And I remember the guy in the shop was like, "Why are you bringing this back? Is there something wrong?" I was just like, "No, I'm not fussed on it." He's like, "You're the only person who's brought this back. The only person." I couldn't get into Vice City. I couldn't, and I gave them a go. San Andreas, I got bored. It wasn't until 4 and 5 where I think the narrative got better that I stuck with it.
Yeah.
But like I said, the gameplay never, and I think a lot of it is just the world building is amazing. And especially in 5, the storytelling is fantastic. But I'm not crazy about the tone. I think some of the writing is fantastic, but I think the comedy is actually shit. I don't think it's well written from a comedic sense.
Yeah.
And the gameplay is never great. It's never best in class.
I'm not a huge fan of the open world because I'm always story driven. I love games with the story. So I'm not a huge fan. Like The Witcher, bloody Fallout. All of they're not my bags, and then I'm not a fan of them at all. Like, well, the problem is you can't move on until you've collected 100 feathers or something like that. Shite.
That's the problem with open world, and that's why I tend to prefer kind of more structured games. But what really is the thing for me is, above all else, like people going about freedom and world building, is like gameplay is king to me. So yeah, sure, something like Sleeping Dogs, it doesn't have as much to do. But I don't really care because all I really want to do is the story. I just want to get on with the story.
The story of Sleeping Dogs is great.
It's great. Yeah. And yeah, like the world isn't as dense. The writing isn't quite as good, but the story is brilliant. And above all else, like I said, the gameplay just feels better. And it was the same reason when, what was it? When Skyrim came out, everyone in the world was playing Skyrim except for me. I was playing Dragon's Dogma because Dragon's Dogma is a much better game. It's, the world of Skyrim is much bigger, much denser, but Dragon's Dogma, the gameplay was so much better. And I'm like, I just prefer to be playing this. It's just one of those weird things.
I love how you gave a face at the start of this section because we probably weren't going to have much to talk about.
I know. And now we're talking about Dragon's Dogma. You know, what the fuck? All right, anyway, so that's basically it. We've come to the end of the podcast. We'll wrap it up there. We'll wrap it up with Dragon's Dogma.
Reviews.
We've got 2
sections left. We've got the review, and then we've got the shit we missed today.
Oh, we've got shit we missed. Okay, fair enough. So in terms of reviews, as I said, didn't know what I was getting into watching this film. I'd never seen it before. So does it hold up? I think it absolutely does because I was watching it for the first time, and I absolutely loved it. In terms of review, I think it's man, it's inching towards 5. It is inching towards 5. I'm going to say 4 stars, but it's a strong 4 stars. Wow. A really strong 4. As I said, I'm not sure if it's like an expectation thing because I was like, I'm not sure if I'm going to really like this, and I loved it so much. But this is like if we were doing a 10-point scale, which we kind of always cheat with. This is like a 9. I think it's that good. Good. But I'm going to give it 4 stars. I'm not going to bottle it like you and give it 4.5. I'm going to stick to my guns. 4 stars.
This is definitely 3.7. No, it's
there we go.
No, I do enjoy this film. I like I said, I've only ever seen it I think twice before, but I think I've seen the sequel more randomly because I think that was more approachable on TV. So that was on BBC One a lot more than this one. But
it's weird how that works out sometimes. It's like I've seen Bogus Journey loads more than Excellent Adventure, despite the fact that I clearly prefer Excellent Adventure. It's really weird.
Excellent Adventure is the better film.
Yeah, totally.
But for me, it's a 3.
Fair enough.
It is a good film. It is an enjoyable film. But I think there are better films from the 80s out there.
They're better films.
I know. But honest, I mean, I can't keep watching all these films going ahead and giving them all bloody 4s and things like that. We haven't got...
I think it's largely okay because let's be clear. People aren't choosing these films for us. We are largely picking films we like. And this was your choice. I got to be honest, just to be clear, I don't think I'll be picking a 3-star. I don't know, maybe if I have picked a 3-star.
But you're saying that in the next couple of weeks, we do actually have recommendations coming up.
Oh, we do, in fairness. And I think, in fairness, I think I gave Monster Squad 3 stars.
Yeah.
I think I give Monster Squad 3 stars. In
and I know
think
I
everything else,
film, and I do enjoy this film, but the rewatch, it's a good film, but it's 3. It is definitely a 3 for me.
Oh, it's definitely 4. Definitely.
But it's 3.75.
I preferred it. I gotta be honest with you, I preferred it when it was 3.7, but whatever, we'll stick with 3.
So I think moving on then, we'll bring.
Oh wait, no. So just be clear, would you? So right, you're watching this now. You go into work, bunch of people. They're not necessarily movie guys, or so you just out having drinks
to watch it because people
you would tell people to watch it.
Yeah, people are Eddie Murphy fans,
and this is peak. I know it's obviously his first film, but this is back when Eddie Murphy was the shit. This is Delirious era. This is Raw era. This is very much Beverly Hills Cop. Yeah. This is basically a darker version of Beverly Hills Cop.
And to come from somebody like you who's never seen it before and enjoyed it, technically, I've actually recommended it for you to watch.
You have. Yeah, but I mean, you're recommending an Eddie Murphy's 80s film to me. I mean, Jesus Christ. It's still a miracle that I'd never seen it.
I'm wondering if we should carry on with this podcast, if you should hand your 80s card in.
I think so. But I should thank you because I might have never watched 48 Hours.
Yeah.
Like, that is a legit concern because I'm like, it's easy for me to say, oh, of course I would have watched it one day. I'm 39 years old. Like, why hadn't I watched it? Maybe it's just one of those films where I'm just like, no, I'm not going to. No. Like I said, I actually thought I had seen it, bizarrely. I just kind of assumed I had. But I've seen bits of it, but I've never, ever sat down and watched the whole film. There's just
I would recommend it. I do enjoy this film. I don't know. There's some. It's a 3.
No. Yeah, stick to your guns, mate.
Like I said, it's one of the ones I picked, and I do enjoy this film. It is a good film.
Do this, like you said, 3.7. That's fine. So, yeah. So the next bit, I didn't even know we were doing this, was shit we missed last week.
Yeah, well, so there was one thing for the Ghostbusters, and you said you wanted to mention something as well, but you've probably forgotten that, have you?
No, I was amazed. And in fairness, I haven't done the research on this, but I had, Tobin's Spirit Guide is mentioned so many times in Ghostbusters. What the fuck is Tobin's Spirit Guide? And what was the other one? Space Catalog. They're like, they just casually say, it's like, oh yeah, we'll do the research. Tobin's Spirit Guide, Space Catalog, sure. What the fuck are those? I have no idea. Oh, so I've had a whole week. I could have done the research. You spring this shit on me. I look like an idiot again. What the fuck?
Do you want to go back to the text messages where I said we'll cover it in shit we missed on the next podcast? You went,
well, we're going to be like 2 weeks away. I'm like, oh, I finally know what happened in Ghostbusters. All right, sorry, man. So what was the other thing you missed?
So the other thing that we didn't mention was the firehouse. We mentioned the fact that the one was in New York and it was outside.
The Tribeca was outside and the interior was LA.
The interior was LA. Yeah. That has been used on loads of films. I mean, one of the big ones is the one.
Are we talking about the interior now? Or
the interior.
Okay, yeah, cool.
So the interior, which was that firehouse, was in LA, and obviously because it's in LA, it was used in Big Trouble in Little China.
I can't believe I didn't.
Yeah. So eggs.
Oh, of course, eggs. Yeah.
Eggs place. That's the interior of the Ghostbusters.
Fuck, dude, I can literally see it. Like as soon as you said it, I'm like, yeah, I can see the scene. Of course, it's the fucking interior.
It was used in The Mask. You've already mentioned Cameron Diaz on this.
The Mask. It's not the bit when he gets his car fixed, is it?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah.
Police Academy 2. I don't know where to in that.
I can hardly remember that film.
Flatliners. National Security with Steve Zahn and...
I've seen that film. I can't remember that scene, but I can't remember that film. Yeah, it's not a classic, mate. You're fine.
Randomly then used in the a couple of A-teams as well.
Oh, bizarre. Well, the thing is, you can get away, as they have, obviously, using the interior. It's like you can't use the exterior for anything else. It's too iconic. It's it's the fire station from...
But you go back and look at the layout in Big Trouble in Little China now, and it is the firehouse.
Yeah. That one in particular, like you say, as soon as you said that one, like with the mask one, I'm like, I think I know the scene, whatever. As soon as you said like Chen's egg house, whatever the fuck it is, I can totally see it. As soon as you said it.
When he goes back, when the mask goes back to the garage, and he's holding the two.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
In the doorway.
The two
when he picks up in the doorway, that's clearly the firehouse. Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird because we're actually, like shit we missed. So we're going back 1 week to Ghostbusters, but we're also going back like 8 weeks to fucking Big Trouble in Little China because we missed it for that as well. So yeah. We're doing a lot of revisions here.
Well, why not, innit?
Is that it then?
Just why not?
Is that all the shit? Like, just be clear, we haven't missed anything else. It's Tobin Spirit Guide and Space Catalog. I'm going to do the research, and I am going to bring that up at some point in the future, which is going to be really fucking random. And I'm sure there's loads we missed for this one.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is not a weekly section.
No. And let's be clear,
we're perfect, but unless somebody calls us out on shit we missed, then we're not bringing this section back up. Do you know what I mean?
No. If somebody calls us out, I'm not like listening back to these things. I'm like, did I miss anything? Am I making any mistakes? I'm sure I fucking am. Just be clear, I do not listen back to these. So yeah, if I made any mistakes, I don't really give a shit. But if somebody points it out, fair play, we'll deal with it. Yeah. That's fair.
So the only other thing to do then is to we've already said now we've got a couple of recommendations on the go. So out of the recommendations list, what have you picked for next week?
Is this one of the recommendations? I'm not sure, because I know we've got a few smaller recommendations.
I think we've got a few, and I think this was on the recommendations.
Fair enough. Well, this was on the recommendation list, and I think actually Rob was going to, and I've kind of stolen it from you, so I do apologize. But this really is one of the massive, massive movies of my youth, and it's James Cameron's Aliens, one of the greatest sequels in movie history, without question. Up there with Godfather 2, and I don't mean that like flippantly. I really mean this. Alien is a sci-fi horror masterpiece, and somehow James Cameron's taken it and just said, "All right, we're going to turn this into a sci-fi action movie." And well, spoiler alert, it fucking works. This film is amazing, and I can't wait to rewatch it and to talk about it next week. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, if you haven't got 2 hours to listen to two guys on a podcast, then you might want to skip next week's episode, because this is going to be a long.
Oh, there's a lot to cover. I could spend 2 hours just basically going crazy about how much I love this film and how I've seen it not too long ago, because it's a few years ago now, but for when Prometheus was released, up in Edinburgh, they had the original 70mm prints of Alien and Aliens, and I'd never seen, obviously, as much as I'd seen Aliens a million times, I'd never seen it on the big screen. So me and a few of my friends ahead of Prometheus, back when we were all super excited about Prometheus, went to see Alien and Aliens on the big screen, and I tell you what, they are transformative experiences. Like a film you've seen a million times, when you see it for the first time on the big screen, it feels completely different.
Same here, because again, probably 2-3 years ago now, definitely before lockdown, me and my friend got to go and watch it on the big screen as well, down in Nangaru, and it
feels, and again, seeing them back to back, it really brought home just how different they are. Like, they're so different. Like, Alien feels so tight, so claustrophobic, and still hold, despite the fact that I think that was 79 as well, that holds up amazingly well. Yeah. And then you watch Aliens, and it's like, oh, this is an 80s film. Like, in the best possible way. Congratulations on picking a 4.99 film. Oh, I mean, dude, out of 5. Spoiler alert, 5 stars. Just to be clear, if you've listened this far and say, "Oh, I'm not going to bother listening to next week," it's like, yeah, that's up to you. This is a 5-star on the nose movie. Really looking forward to watching this. This might be. I think this is a top 10 movie for me. Not of the decade, all timer. This is really look forward to it. I hope you can join us. Aliens next week. This one's been awesome as always. Great catching up with you. But thanks for listening, guys. Really appreciate it. Yeah, cheers, mate. I'll see you soon. Bye bye. Oh yeah, and before I forget, because I always forget, here's Rob telling you where you can actually find us. Yeah, so we're currently on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter under Hey You Guys 80s or at Hey You Guys 80s. And we're also on email at heyyouguys80s@gmail.com. Please feel free to drop us any emails, any recommendations, or any reviews you have. But whilst we're on about that, wherever you get your podcasts, please also smash the subscribe button. Yes, I said smash. It's fine. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Leave us a review and leave us some 5-star ratings as well. But make sure they're 5-star ratings. Yeah. We're not interested in 1-star, 5-star. If it's not going to be 5-star, don't go smashing anything. Just leave your opinion to yourself. 5-star ratings only. But yeah, if you could do that, we'd really appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Thank you. See you next week.